Hello YouTube. I am here today to tell you about Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and it was a really good movie. Here we go. Now this is the 5th Mission Impossible movie made, and fortunately I've had the privilege to see almost all, if not almost all, of the Mission Impossible movies in theaters. However, I wasn't even born when the first one came out, and the second one, even if I did see it in theaters, I probably wouldn't remember it. But I do remember seeing the third and fourth movies, and I, of course, have watched the first and second ones. And I have to say, this one has to be the best by far, in my opinion. So what this movie's about is Ethan Hunt is he's trying to locate and prove the existence of a terrorist group known as the Syndicate. But however, Alec Baldwin's character, the head of the CIA, does not believe that it exists. So he basically disavows the entire IMF and wants all its assets pulled back in and whatnot. But Ethan decides to go rogue and continue on his pursuit by himself, which and basically sets up the movie. And with a few friends, Ethan must, of course, prove their existence and put a stop to them and capture their leader. Of course, I have to say, once again, Tom Cruise is excellent in this film. Most films he's done in the past few years have been very good, mostly because of Tom Cruise. He's an amazing, talented actor. You really feel his motivation in this movie to capture the leader of this terrorist group and bring him to justice and whatnot by doing anything possible. Nothing will get in his way in order to stop him. And that honestly was one of my favorite parts of the film. Again, Tom Cruise does most, if not all, of his stunts in this movie. And for someone that is 53 years old, that is impressive. I gotta give major props to him on that. Simon Pegg as Benji in this movie, once again, great. He did a great job, provided a lot of light to the film in a very kind of gloomy film otherwise. And he actually does some really good dramatic performances in this movie. And some people don't actually see Simon Pegg as more of a dramatic actor. If you go back and watch either like Shaun of the Dead or possibly The World's End, I think he's kind of like that in that too. He's a very dramatic actor. He can be a very dramatic actor if he needs to be, and he really does a good job at it. I really like some of the scenes that he did in this film. Ving Rhames is back as Luther Stickle, one of my favorite characters in the series, and he has a much bigger role in this movie. Thank goodness, because he was in like the last scene in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. He was barely in it, and I'm glad they gave him a much bigger role to play. And of course, he's just an amazing character again. Jeremy Renner, of course, did a very good job. He wasn't as involved in the missions in this movie as he was in Ghost Protocol. He's more trying to make sure that he can get to Ethan before the CIA does and whatnot, and he's trying to convince the CIA director not to kill Ethan and whatnot. And speaking of CIA director, Alec Baldwin did a really good job, which is surprising because Alec Baldwin I don't see as like the best actor ever, but he did a very good job. I really liked his performance. Of course, I can't go through this mentioning actors section without mentioning Rebecca Ferguson. Holy crap, she did an amazing job in this movie. I really bought her performance. She hasn't been in much, but she did a really good job in this movie. I really liked her performance, and I honestly think she should be in more movies after this. She did an amazing job. All the more power to her. One aspect of this movie that was very, very good is how tense it was. It wasn't straight up like thriller, kind of like MI2 or 3 was. There was very intense moments that there was no action going on at all. It was just this thing happening right now. And two scenes in particular fit this bill, in which I was literally just clutching my armrests in the theaters. It was that intense. One involving a car chase that turns into a motorcycle chase, and it's probably one of the best motorcycle chases I've ever seen in a movie. And another being a scene in which Ethan has to go underwater. That's all I'll say about it. And it was very intense. I was like holding my breath in the theater, and it was just terrifying. The scene itself, it was just like, oh, come on. It was just great. I will say that this was one of the better parts of the movie. And to keep from spoiling anything, I will say one thing. If you were like, oh man, they spoiled the ending of this movie with the end of the trailer or with the promotional art, with Ethan hanging on the plane, don't worry, that is like the perfect thing. That is what they should have put on everything. You will see when you see the movie, if you see the movie. Um, that was the perfect scene they could have done with the trailers and promotion and whatnot. And also, I really like how missions, how they, with the missions in this movie, they go like Ethan will say like, I don't care how impossible it is, I just have to overcome it. You don't plan for an impossible mission. You can't think about it. You just have to do it. You have to go through with sheer willpower and get through it, because that's the only way you're going to accomplish an impossible mission. This villain is also one of the better villains of the entire franchise. He's probably my second favorite villain of the whole entire Mission Impossible franchise. Um, because you see him enough in the film, unlike Mission Impossible 4, and you understand his motivation, and it's clear why he's doing things, and you want him to get himself put in his place. You had so much, and I really, at the end of this, I was like, yes, when they finally captured him. I like the irony in his capture. I won't spoil anything, of course, but yeah, it's very ironic how he's captured. I really liked it, and he's one of the better villains. I will say that he's just better than some of the other ones, especially the last one. Ooh. Another aspect of this movie that I enjoyed that they brought over from Ghost Protocol and the first Mission Impossible was that there's lots of teamwork and banter. It was really enjoyable because it's not all about Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt doesn't do everything. I like how he had to work with his team and whatnot to actually accomplish some of these missions, and it really sells you on his character and the movie itself. And yeah, it's something I really enjoyed, and the way the team worked together to capture the villain in the end was just so satisfying, and I really loved the ending to this movie. It was very intense and epic. I really liked it. Now, I might be alone in my opinion here, but I feel as though this movie spreads itself very nicely around its entire runtime. Because in Ghost Protocol, you had, of course, the first scenes and whatnot with the movie, and then you get to the Burj Khalifa scene in Dubai, of course. It's just probably the best scene in all of Ghost Protocol. And after that scene, the movie just doesn't feel as epic, and it just good. No, not good, but it just doesn't feel as epic as it would have been if they had made it possible for that to be somewhere at the end of the movie. While in this film, I feel as though the sequence of events, it transpires very nicely across, and they save some of the more epic things for last, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie. Negative with this movie is very, very small. It's barely a thing. Of course, I will have to say one thing. The villain, of course, was not the greatest. I will admit that. That's not a big negative. But another small sort of negative I had with this movie was it felt as though Ethan Hunt wasn't as smart in this movie. He kind of felt like, it kind of seemed like he was kind of like, I'm going to do anything I can to get to this guy, even if it means risking like a ton of stuff. And it's like, man, but eventually at the end of the movie, you realize, okay, he planned this out. He knew that he was going to end up here, and he knew what he needed to do afterwards. And that was probably, and of course, that negative turned into a positive, and it made the movie even better because of it. And I will say also that this movie is amazing. It's just great. I was never bored the entire time. They kept up with the pace quite well, in my opinion. And in the end, guys, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation was great. And I'm going to say that it is pure amazingness. I just want to thank you all for watching my video again, and if you like this video, please do not forget to like it, and don't forget also to subscribe to my channel. And I would really like to hear if you've seen the movie. I would really like to see your opinions on it in the comments below. I really like to see your guys' opinions on it, just because I like to see stuff that is not exactly my opinion. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, please post down in the comments what is your favorite Mission Impossible movie and why. And as always, guys, do not forget to overcome the impossible.